Hello and welcome back to Straight from the Drafts. Today is the solo episode, and before we dive in, I just thought I would say I am absolutely loving the guest episodes. At the time that I'm recording this one, I've so far recorded 4 guest episodes. I've got another one tomorrow, and 2 of those are already live. So the third one is coming to you next week. Plenty for you to listen to if you haven't already. But you will have to let me know if you are enjoying them as well, how you're finding the alternate weeks between guest and solo episodes. And of course, if there's anything in particular that you would like to hear, you want me to discuss during the solo weeks as well. For me, not only have these chats been genuinely so much fun to record, and I've spoken to some fabulous people, but having those conversations around their journeys more generally and diving into their self-trust stories has massively confirmed to me that I want this podcast to be a slightly broader project. So for those of you who don't know, my business focuses on social media and content strategy right now. So really, it would make sense if all my solo episodes were therefore all about content strategy. And I will cover that, and the examples that I share throughout episodes will link back to content strategy because I work with a lot of clients on that. But I also love all things self-development. And long term, I would actually really love to move into more of a coaching role, which I don't think I've ever admitted out loud before, or at least not so publicly. So there's an exclusive for you. And I want to be able to talk more about those kinds of topics and approach content strategy from that lens as well. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you as little thoughts that I've been having while I've been recording all these guest episodes and while I am still working through the final bits of my pivot in my business. If you didn't know, I have been looking at changing my business since summertime 2025. And the podcast is an extension of that. So as things change behind the scenes, things are changing on the podcast as well. And I'm just kind of allowing myself to figure it out as we go. So I thought I would sort of set your expectations for what to expect of the podcast going forward. On to today's topic. I really want to discuss the concept of holding ourselves accountable. Now, I talk a lot about being a cheerleader for people, whether that's the people in my life, my clients in my business, but I also don't think that there's any value in empty praise. And I imagine if any family members are listening to this, then they'll have just laughed, because one thing that you should know about me is that I will tell you the truth. And I'm not the gal that you come to just to hear what you want to hear. I am the gal that you come to when you want honest advice. Of course, always said with love, because I genuinely want the best for you, but honest. And there's a quote that's really stuck in my head over the past few weeks, which I think is something that Alice Benham said, pretty sure. And it's something along the lines of, you can't be disappointed by the results of the work that you haven't done. Now, I've likely butchered the quote, but it's essentially a reminder that we can't be mad if we haven't achieved something, if we haven't yet put in the effort to achieve it. Now, I've personally been reminding myself of this over the past month as I've started to officially pivot the business, and I haven't yet signed clients on my new services. But the thing is, have I done the work yet to make that happen? Have I pulled every lever that I've got? And the truthful answer is no, I haven't. For a start, it has only been a couple of weeks and things take time. And secondly, have I shown up and spoken about my new offers every single day? No. And I really think that you can get a good sense of, am I talking about this thing enough? When you're sick of talking about it. I think that's where you've just probably about talked about it enough, if you're sick of it. Not when you think everyone else is sick of hearing it, but when you're sick of talking about it. And I'm not yet sick of talking about it. In fact, I have barely started. Now, this isn't about beating yourself up and being like, oh, I'm so rubbish. I actually think this has the opposite effect. Because if you can take a step back and look at the facts and go, right, well, have I given this enough time yet? Have I taken the action that I need to take in order to achieve that goal? It actually helps to avoid that spiral of, oh, I'm rubbish. Because the facts literally tell you that either you've sat still and done nothing, or you self-sabotage the progress that you are making. And acknowledging that and kind of figuring out where you are puts you in a much stronger position to move forward. And I wanted to talk about this today for 2 reasons. Firstly, because, as I said, this is front of mind for me right now. I know that I haven't done all the things that I need to be able to do to properly assess, is this working with my pivot? But also, this is something that I see a lot as someone who works in the social media space. So every networking event that I've been to over the last few years, or onboarding calls that I've had with clients, people always say to me things like, oh, Instagram just doesn't work for me. And I'll go to their socials and I'll see that they haven't posted in 3 weeks or 3 months. Or maybe I'll follow them. I might watch their stories every day, they're showing up, but all they've told me is that yesterday they took their dog to the vet and their dog's been poorly. They haven't actually sold their offer. And that doesn't mean that they're rubbish, but it also doesn't mean that Instagram doesn't work for them. What's actually going on there is they haven't shouted about their services. And people can't buy from someone who isn't selling. At least not on Instagram anyway. That's not really how it works. On a marketplace like Etsy or Amazon, or maybe even through your website if they find you on Google, your customers are going out looking for you and the marketplace is presenting you as the solution. But on your social media, you've got to be the one to wave the flag for like, hey, here I am, I can help you, let me show you how. And that doesn't just apply to social media, that's just one example. This is an important reminder, I think, with a lot of things in life. It's like signing up for a gym membership and then wondering, oh, I'm not getting any stronger, when you haven't actually been to the gym yet. You've just bought the membership. And one of the absolute best things that I think I've ever done for myself as a business owner is something that I did years before I even started a business. I started working on my mindset. In my late teens, so when I was doing my A-levels and when I first started work, I had a shocking mindset, like a real victim mentality. Like if I missed my train to work in the morning, it was always because I got stuck behind a bus, and I would never say like, oh yeah, maybe I just left the house with absolutely zero buffer time to allow for that morning traffic in case I got stuck behind a bus. Past Neo was full of excuses. The lack of self-awareness was real. And while I do have love and empathy for that version of me, I'd never want to be that gal again. And so I really think that this simple reminder to hold ourselves accountable is almost the antidote to victim mindset, especially as business owners, because pretty much everything is on us, which is sometimes exhausting, but it's also a blessing. And I think it's important that we try and keep that perspective, because when everything's on us, that also means that most things are within our control to change. But as I say, you've got to kind of recognize where you are to know how to move forward. So if there's something frustrating you right now, if you don't feel like you're making progress on something, check in with yourself. Are you doing all the things that you need to be doing to make it happen? And is that list of actions realistic? Now, I'm all for having big goals and wanting things to, collapse in time, doing things double speed. But you can't really expect to post one piece of content and sell out your service. Incredible if that happens, but let's not set that as our expectation to begin with. Are you metaphorically wondering why you're hungover after drinking a metaphorical bottle of wine to yourself because you're thinking, oh, but I did have one sip of water. Are you sat on your laptop at 10 p.m. feeling sorry for yourself, but ignoring the fact that you spent the whole morning watching the part 1 of Bridgerton, and then you went to the hairdressers, so realistically probably didn't start working until about 3 o'clock. Sometimes when we get ourselves in this headspace, it's really easy to either berate ourselves and just be like, oh, it's me, I am rubbish, or not look at all the facts and play that victim mindset piece of, oh, it's just not going to happen for me. Or thinking, I'm doing everything right. I don't understand why I'm not achieving this thing. I don't understand why I'm still sat here working at 10 o'clock. Social media would have us all believe that everything is easy and everything is instant, but that is just not the case. Real achievements require real graft. They require consistency. And lying to ourselves about the effort that we're putting in will only slow us down. So I say this with so much love, because I say it to myself too. Are you working as hard as you think you are? And to end the episode, of course, a cheesy little quote for you to take with you through the week. The harder you work, the luckier you'll get. Now, I love that quote because I think we see people online all the time and think, God, they're so lucky. And of course, privilege is a real thing. We don't always see the full picture. But exactly that, sometimes we don't see the whole picture. We don't see the years of graft, the late nights, all the things that people have done to get to that position. And if you do know how hard someone's worked and you're not willing to put in that same level of effort, then don't necessarily expect yourself to get that same output either. Now, I don't want to end this episode on a negative note. I want the intent here to be clear that this is a pep talk with just a bit more tough love than usual. A little bit less hype, a little bit more, let's just be honest with ourselves for a second, because it's only February and there's so much of this year left, but we're only going to achieve our goals if we're really honest with ourselves about how hard we're working for them. So if you're still listening to this, I'm hoping you're not mad at me right now. I'm hoping this was something that you actually needed to hear. And I will be back with another guest episode next Wednesday. Until then, I really do hope you have a gorgeous rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye!